it's me, Gweakles, and welcome to another sketch chat. Now, by the title, I'm sure you guys can probably put together that this is probably going to be a little bit of a sad sketch chat, but I'm going to do my best to make it as positive and as good as I possibly can. As many of you know, my dog Phoebe had lymphoma, and I fought for many months with her, giving her surgeries and all available treatments to try and get her better. And unfortunately, her body gave out about at the, I want to say at the end of April, the last Monday, and unfortunately I had to make the incredibly tough decision to put Phoebe down. And this is why my activity has been spotty. It's been why I've probably sounded very tired in my videos, or not as perky and upbeat as I usually do, which I apologize for. I do my best to try and make sure that the content on all of my social media is as positive as it can possibly be, which is why it's taken me so long to actually sit down and do this, because I knew I wanted to do something special for Phoebe. I wanted to do something even more special, like, and way different, but I just don't have the time, or even with my how do I say this, my inspiration is, it's been incredibly difficult to get back in the swing of things. So that's why my art posts have been off, that's why my mood has probably been off, and I've been extremely inconsistent. And I severely apologize to everybody for, you know, that happening. I'm sorry, but you know, Phoebe was a very big part of my life. She was with me for almost 13 years. Her birthday would be in July on the 7th. So she almost made it to 13 years old, so, and I'm 27. So she's more or less been with me for half my life. And now I've been trying to figure out how to basically live my life without her. And that has been a process, especially given most of you know that I have anxiety, and you know, with that, obviously the loss of a loved one and my very best friend obviously put me into a very large state of depression. And it's been really weird. It's been a really weird ride, and I don't want to say anything negative at all. I just want to be positive and, you know, make this about good things. And I wanted to kind of make this, you know, like how do I just say this, like a nice memoriam for Phoebe. I wanted to do something way bigger and do something for her and my dad's Rottweiler, because unfortunately that was a really rough week. But we also had to put our family dog down the day after I had to put Phoebe down. So we were hit pretty hard, and she was the family dog, but she was everybody's dog, and kind of like Phoebe was my dog, but you know, she was really everybody's dog too. So my family was kind of really hit really hard. My dad's still taking it, you know, pretty roughly. He's, you know, lonely now because that was his buddy, that was his best friend that was hanging out with him. My brothers are like either in the last year of their high school, or my one brother's going off to college. So, you know, they aren't going to be there, and my dad will be by himself for quite a bit. So it's really odd. I'm sure, you know, some people have their opinions about like animals and moving on after them, and then some people are incredibly devoted dog owners and lovers, like me myself. Phoebe, you know, she wasn't an animal, she was my best friend. Phoebe didn't judge me for anything. She was always there for me. when I needed her. She didn't have a bad day and take it out on me. She didn't care what I looked like. She didn't care how weird or quirky I must have been. You know, she was just there, and she just wanted some food and some snuggles and some love. And ever since I was a little girl, Phoebe has always been there for me, and it's been difficult and really hard to try and figure out where to go from the point where I was to, as I said, living life without her. I've had a lot of ideas for videos, and I've had a lot of other things, but I kind of like didn't want to proceed with anything until I had gotten this off the plate, which is why it's taken me so long to really get in a good step as far as videos go and find the right motivation, because I felt really guilty for not making art because I wanted to, but my motivation was completely drained. And work is incredibly demanding of me. I work for a marketing company, so it's a very demanding environment, and it's very draining. But I realized, you know, after a month or so of time to be able to try and heal, I still miss my little girl every day, and there isn't a day that goes by that I don't think of her. But you know, with time, just like everything else, things become easier, and you know, it's still not easy, but I still am in the stage very much of I want my dog. But I'd like to, you know, just share some friendly points, or not friendly points, just good memories of times that I have been able to have with Phoebe while she was alive. And you know, I'm sorry if this is, you know, not a bright and perky sketch chat for you, and I completely understand if it's not something you're interested in. But this not only is a way for me to heal, but you know, I like to be transparent with you guys as my followers, and I like to include you in what's going on in my life and my journey as a person, as a human. And this is one of those things, and I think it will be healthy to try and remember Phoebe for all the good times I had her, and you know, the positive things. So one thing I'll say, one funny memory, when I had Phoebe, she was really little. Dachshunds are really small. Phoebe was a miniature dapple dachshund. So as you can probably imagine, she was very tiny when she was a puppy. And one time we left her inside and we couldn't find her, but we could hear her barking for us, like arr, arr, yow, yow, yow. Like it almost sounded like she was yelling for help. She had gone behind the fish tank and in an attempt to eat up, like, you know, the little fish pellets or flakes that had gone behind there, and she got stuck in the wires. And it was so funny. She was so cute. Another thing Phoebe liked to do, she liked to take her stuffed animals, and they used to be, you know, so much bigger than her. You know, when she was just a little, she looked like just a little, basically like a little log with little stumpy legs, and it was the most precious thing. And so she'd have to drag around her toys, and then finally when she'd get older, she would like act like she was so badass and just want to beat him up, like, haha, now I'm older, now I'm the one in charge. And it was just, there was never a dull moment with her. She had such a hilarious personality, and that's why, one of the many reasons why we picked her out of the litter. She was just so spunky, and she had such an attitude that sometimes really could get on your nerves, but at the same time, you know, it's just like people, you know, she had her way of thinking things, and just, you know, Phoebe was just a doll. As she got older, she actually survived a lot of things that would probably should have I don't want to say it like this, but probably would have otherwise, you know, killed a dog on normal circumstances. My brothers, when they were younger, you know, they were little babies, so they kind of like, one of my brothers accidentally hit her with his backswing for golf, and she got so sick. I mean, the biggest Phoebe got was like 10 pounds, so you can imagine she was a very little dog. We were like, oh my gosh, and we just like followed her trail of sickness, and she was absolutely fine. She came out on top. Another instance, one time while I was away in college before I had gotten her, because at first I was staying with a cousin, my dad would get so mad because he's used to having big dogs, and when you punish the dogs, you know, you have to show them that you're the alpha and all that other garbage. But because Phoebe's so small, you can't really, you don't want to hurt her, you know what I mean? You don't want to hurt any dog, but he would get so frustrated because she was so stubborn and would want to do things, you know, her own way, her own Phoebe way. So one time she ate an entire pan of Ghirardelli brownies. I don't know how she survived that, because I was like, Dad, you need to take her to this place and you gotta take her to go get her stomach pumped and all that other stuff. And he was like, nope, she ate the brownies and now she has to suffer the consequences. And I was like, Dad, she's gonna die. And he's like, she ate my brownies. It wasn't like he didn't care. I'm sure he took care of her, but like Phoebe ate like 3 large steak hamburgers that made her turn from like this to like this one time, and just, she had been through so much. She had such a personality. When I was in college and we'd be painting and stuff, she would love to run through, like, not necessarily run, but she would love to go through like everybody's palettes. So like if we were, for instance, painting on the couch, which we usually did, my roommate and I, or my friends when they came over, we'd paint on the couch, you know, or sit on the couch and paint and have like our easels up next there and paint. She would, and then we're holding them, and or if you put it down for just like a split second, you know, just a little baby split second, Phoebe would just, you know, walk through the palettes. Or like if I had several paintings going on at once, and we're talking oils, not like, you know, it's acrylic and you're like, ah, just wash off and then it'll dry and flake up. We're talking about like oils, and I'm like, oh my God, Phoebe, oils are expensive. And she always did it to my roommate, and my roommate would get pissed. I'm like, I'm sorry, you shouldn't have her on the couch then with you and just leave your oils then. I'm sorry, I don't know what to say. But it was funny, and she'd always step on my watercolor pieces, always, all the time. It would be like finals week, so what I would do is I would lay out several pieces at once, and I would lay out several pieces at once, and so I could work on them, so like when one was drying, I could go into the next. And she would, like, you know, intermediately get up to go get something to drink, or like just switch her seating, or be like, hey, I'm hungry. And I'd be like, hey Phoebe, don't walk through that, I'm working on that. And she'd be like, oh, this? And she had like anywhere else to go, but she just had to walk. She just had to walk on my stuff. She was such a little bugger. And then a lot of times it would be, oh, like in the middle of the night, she like would let out these fear barks, and I would be up until like 2 and 3 working on finals and such, and she would, it would be absolute silence, and then she'd go, "Arr!" And I'd be like, ah, why? And she'd be like, you know, it's too quiet around here. Or we'd be playing PlayStation at night, and she had everywhere else to go, and she's like, you guys aren't doing anything with this cord, right? Let me just walk through, and like ruin so many games of oh, golly, what is it? Call of Duty, Black Ops Zombies, or just like the multiplayer. And she was just a trip. She had like the best personality. She had this mode where she would go into if I got her all fired up, and I'd, you know, get a toy or this bunny down here, which was her favorite. The things I'm surrounding her with are her favorite things. So like, this is a bunny that my friends gave her for Christmas. It was her favorite toy. These little bones I'm scattering along are her favorite treats, as long as these other little treats that I had found. And this bear dog over here was also one of her other favorite toys. But anyways, she she was just too much. My dog had such a personality behind her, and in her big sad eyes, she just always looked like we would call her sad girl. It's because her eyes were so big and her face looked like that. She just always looked like she was like miserable all the time, even though she was just living in the lap of luxury. My Phoebe, too much. But yeah, that was funny. I'm trying to think, what else can I say about my sweet girl? In the morning, she would always have this way of waking up. She'd do this really big yawn and this really big stretch, which was hilarious because she was so long. So she would like stretch out her paws and her back feet and let them just like drag, and I would grab her little paws and let them drag, and she would let out this like ha noise and just talk. She was such a talker. And when I would come home, if I left her, oh, Phoebe had way bad separation anxiety. So like if you went somewhere and you did not take her, she would freak out awfully. Like, I got complaints when I was in college about her barking all day and all night. So like, I would go to school during the day and work at night, or work during the day and then go to school at night, because I was a full-time student and a part-time worker at Publix, even though they would always schedule me to work like full-time shifts. Those people were awful. But anyway, so I had to get her one of those collars, and it was, you know, it's a non-shock collar, so it still broke my heart. And you know, I made sure to shock myself with it, you know, so that it wasn't her. It's, whoa, golly, what do you call it? It's a static shock. There's no electricity. So she's so stubborn. So like the first time we go to leave her with the collar on, normally she'd go arp, 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 arp. And so you'd hear her go arp, 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 and then you'd hear the thing static shock her, and she'd go arp, arp, arp. And then she'd go arp, 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 arp. And it just went on, and I'm like, oh my god, I can't leave her. And my roommate was like, you have to. She's gonna get used to it. You have to do it. And I was like, oh, it was so hard. But she's so stubborn. If she wanted something, man, you know, it was like her way or the highway, dude. She was going to have it. That was going to be that. I'm also gonna draw a little lizard because she liked lizard hunting. She was like lizard hunter supreme, and always she'd kill all the lizards in my dad's backyard and just leave like a trail of corpses. But it was the most precious thing, because when you knew she had a lizard, she would just stick her nose in like a bush or something, and her tail would start wagging. And it was just the most precious thing. One time there was a possum in the backyard, and we were trying so hard to get her to stay away from it, you know, because she thinks she's about to go fight this thing, and we're like, no you're not. She's like, yeah I am. And so my dad, of course, had to shoot it so it wouldn't hurt her. And then she came out of the bush like she had killed it. Like, she came out so flamboyant and switching her tail around, strutting her stuff like, yeah, that's right, I killed that possum. It was me. And my dad was like, oh my God, stop it right now. She was just too much. Absolutely too freaking much. That dog had like such a personality on her. Oh gosh, and she was so great to snuggle. That was my favorite thing to do on Saturday. Was like just curl up and cuddle with her. And she just always wanted to be near somebody. That's all Phoebe wanted. And whenever there was guests over, she made sure she would go sleep in their lap and like not mine. And especially if they had food, she'd be like, Kiki who? She'd be like, bye, see ya, sucker. It was just, but I thought it was sweet that like, she'd always, if my friend came over, she made a point to like, she just loved everybody, except other dogs. Phoebe loved people, but she did not like other dogs, and she was always like, you need to get them out of my face right now. What is this other dog doing here in my house? Why are we even here? What is wrong with this picture? She was all about the humans, not about the dogs. Which, given the fact that she was only 10 pounds, I mean, my dad liked to give her a lot of crap, but I was like, man, if we were only 10 pounds and I'd lay down to see like the world from her perspective, and it's pretty scary, you know? Like, imagine seeing things from our animals' perspective and like how big things really are, and you know what it really looks like to be on, you know, their level of things. Another fun thing that I would do with Phoebe was I'd get her toy, and she liked to be chased, and I'd chase her around you know, the house or the apartment, and my dad called it her race car Phoebe mode. And she would like almost do like the Scooby-Doo run where she'd like get some, she'd get like some no traction under her feet, but her feet were still going, so she'd be like in the air, like, you know, that little Scooby-Doo sound effect that the Scooby-Doo show would make. And it was just, it was too much, it was too funny. So there was that, and just, oh my gosh, that was one of my favorite things. I would play with her all the time, even especially once we moved out to the apartment. She really had those moments because she didn't really have much place to go, so she would just circle, you know, like the living room, and she'd circle the living room and the oh golly, the living room and the kitchen. And I would just, if you follow my Snapchat, I'm sure you've seen me post. Looks like my camera's being a butt. Hopefully we didn't lose too much footage. But yeah, food was pretty much her favorite thing, which was why I knew as soon as she wasn't eating that something was wrong. Because there's no way food was like her favorite thing. There's no way that she wouldn't eat. I had first thought that the food I was giving her, like, it gave her upset belly, so she wouldn't eat that. And then you know, I tried to give her a different flavor, and then I'm like, well, she's incredibly smart, so maybe this brand is just not agreeing with her, you know. And then, you know, I'd get her to eat. One night she'd eat like one new thing of this, and then the next night she wouldn't, and it was just like a constant battle. I'm like, what is going on? And I'd taken her into the doctor, and the vet initially said she just had like a little, very minor pancreatic infection. So, you know, and they took blood work and all that other stuff. And then so I was like, oh, okay, no problem. And then her blood work came back and the doctor was like, this is really bad, she needs an ultrasound, blah blah blah. And then I had talked to the other people and I was like, oh my gosh. So I had an ultrasound scheduled for her at the pet hospital, but then when I had gone in to get her meds for like her pancreatitis thing, the nurses were, I was like, is this something that I need to be really worried about? And the nurses were like, no. I was like, oh, okay. Because obviously she was a perfectly healthy dog, and then out of nowhere she's like not eating, she's got these infections. And I thought it was because of her teeth, because you know, baby dogs have really bad teeth and they can cause them to get infections. So they didn't think it was that. And then finally the ultrasound came back and there was like, she had some stuff, a mass in her belly, and they didn't know what it was, so we had to get that removed. And when they went inside, you know all the tests to get it removed, they also removed her gallbladder, just because when dogs are older they just eventually they give out on them. So that was removed, and the mass had turned out to be a little hair, because this little thing liked to lick the floor in her spare time. That was her, how she liked to pass the time. I was like, Phoebe, and I was crying and I was so happy that it was just hair. And then a week or so later her blood results came back in and they had found out that she had lymphoma. So immediately, obviously, that was demoralizing. It was a really big roller coaster. You know, like one minute you think you're in the clear, and then there's that, and then I go to the oncologist and they're like, oh, well, you know what's weird is she's got the lymphoma, but you know, there's no masses and it's not spreading and it's staying in one area and all this other gobbledygook. And so they had said that obviously lymphoma is not curable, but they said, you know, Phoebe's lymphoma wasn't good and it wasn't bad. So then I, you know, had to take her in on a weekly basis to get like cancer treatments. And at first she was absolutely fine. I was like, wow, she's just handling this like a trooper. No puking, no nothing. And I had so many meds I had to give her, you guys. Like, it was just, after months of like her just being sick and not really know what was going on, only to find that, like, you know, and I had already been giving her meds for like the other things they initially thought were wrong with her that ended up not being wrong with her. So I was just like so burnt every morning, giving her like 3 to 4 meds all the time. And obviously I was happy to do it, anything to keep my dog alive, but it was just like so emotionally draining. It was like a roller coaster, because one week she'd be fine and then another week they'd be like, oh, it's not working and her body's really weak and blah blah blah. And then they put her on this new chemo that was specifically for her issue, because I guess they were trying, like, I suppose the gentle stuff first, because she was just like a little dog, so you don't want to go ham, right? And then she was fine the first week on that, and then what happened was, I guess after the second week her body was like, whoa, and her legs were like giving out and she had needed a blood transfusion. And then if I hadn't got her there for the blood transfusion in time, then she probably would have died. And then after that, I found it weird that the doctor immediately wanted to give her a gentle chemo for that week. Like, I found it weird that he didn't want her to rest first after the blood transfusion. But, you know, I'm not about to tell anybody how to do their job, right? So if that's what he had recommended, I brought her in for that. And then after that, just things got worse and worse and worse. Her body was like you know, not doing, she'd be okay, and then the next week, you know, she'd be like not doing well, and you know, one week she'd be eating like hard food, her own food, and the next week, you know, she wouldn't be eating anything at all. I'd have to get her to eat, like figure out like, God, what is she gonna eat? And it'd be like, well, I'll eat chicken dumplings or something. And one week I thought she'd be fine, and then the other week it would completely change up on me. And it was just such an emotional roller coaster. And at the same time, my whole family was like trying to tell me and like prepare me for the worst. I'm like, look, if my dog is still walking and she is looking at me and going potty and she is eating, you know, I don't want to play God. I didn't like it. So, and it was emotionally stressful, like at work always being on the phone, and just, it really got to me. So that's probably why a lot of my art and stuff got affected. And I apologize for that, but you know, this dog was my very best friend, and she will always continue to be a special part of my life, because she's always been there for me when no one else was, and I love her very much. So eventually her body just, after that blood transfusion, like literally the week before she was fine, but then after that blood transfusion and then a couple more weeks on like that chemo, the doctor was like, oh, this chemo's not working and blah blah blah, and then she just was like declining and her legs were giving out again. I was like, oh no, does she need another blood transfusion? Because apparently it's common for the blood transfusion thing because of all the work that the chemo does on the body. But they were like, you know, they let her stay in for a night, overnight at the hospital, and you know, we lived there for a really long time. I was like bringing her in weekly for her chemotherapy treatments, paying for those, paying for all her meds, and then when something bad happened, I would have to bring her in and get that checked out, the blood transfusion, the surgery, just tons and tons of stuff. I mean, right now, the biggest component of my life, and I'm really thankful that I have my family to support me, because I wouldn't have been able to continue to take care of Phoebe if I hadn't had my mom to let me move back with her. And like, obviously this did a real number on my anxiety, and I wasn't in any place to be by myself, you know. It just wasn't a good thing, you know. Ari had to move back home because of family stuff herself. It was just awful to be by myself, even though I had Phoebe. I needed that love and that support and that nurturing environment, and I got that, and I'm so glad I did, because I don't think I'd be okay right now if I didn't have them. So I'm very thankful for that. This is still very wet, so before I go back in and wrap all this up, I'm gonna let this dry for just a little bit. Okay, now that that's all dry, I'm gonna go ahead and add in Phoebe's little dapple coloration. It was so funny because a lot of people never, you know, realized what a dapple was or had seen one before. But her dapple coloration is really, really cute. She was just cute. The cutest little thing. And it looked like, to me, what was also really fun about it was that it looked like she had gotten into some paint, and she would anyways. So that was always part of the funness. And what else was really cool about her dapple was that when she got older, you couldn't really tell, like, obviously, like right here, you'll see in the reference picture I'm using, she got like more white right here instead of it being brown. but because she was a dapple, you couldn't really tell. It looked like it could have just been part of her coloration. And it was weird seeing it, like, because if you see her every day, you know, you don't really notice the transition until I go back and I look at other photos, and I was like, wow, this was all brown right here. And I will leave it brown for the sake of, you know, for the young Phoebe vibe. But yes, I hope this has been, you know, a good experience for you guys. I'm sorry if this is somewhat depressing or really not what you want to see from me, but I'm sorry. I feel like this was the best way for me to, in a positive way, kind of give you guys an update on what's been going on with me, and you know, my inconsistency, perhaps my mood you've noticed, and update. And I've been meaning to do it for a while, but obviously I needed that time to heal first, and it's taken me quite a while, but I think I'm, you know, getting to a good place where I can obviously talk and remember her fondly instead of getting very upset when bringing her up. You know, obviously if I like really think about it in a sad way instead of trying to think about, you know, enjoying the time I had with her while she was here on this earth, then that's only going to make me sad. But I don't think I'll ever be able to not be emotional when talking about Phoebe, you know, after getting to a certain point. Because my dad right now, as I said, he's looking for another dog. And there are points where I'm like, man, I'm tired of being alone every night and not having, you know, my best friend to snuggle with me or give me love first thing in the morning and all that other stuff. But because it's a big change. I've always had a dog in my life, and I've had Phoebe for so long, so it's like, wow, what do I do now? You know, so, but then at the same time, like, I'm really not, I don't want another dog, you know. It sounds really childish, but it's like I want my dog. I don't want, you know, another dog. She wasn't like a thing to be replaced, and I know that people suggest doing it just so you have that love to help you mourn. My grandma had suggested it to me, but you know, everybody's different, and I'm not ready. I want my dog, you know. And Phoebe was just so important to me, and I'm still, you know, trying to figure out how to move on and do the day-to-day without her. It's only now have I started to be able to really be like getting used to the fact that I wake up in the morning and nobody's there waiting for me. I'm not giving her medicine anymore. I'm not, you know, spending my whole morning doing that, or I don't have anyone to feed. But I do help out with my mom's dog. And my mom's dog, I'm actually really lucky that I have my mom's dog, because I had the ability to get some love from her. And it's not the same, you know, because she's not mine, and everybody's dog is very much different. But oh goodness. But it's nice having a critter to hold and hug and just have something, you know. But I don't know, I would love to have, you know, that love again, but I still just miss my baby, and I just want her, and you know, I have her on my lock screen and I think about her every day. It's such a good picture of her. And I think it'll be some time, and you know, I have a lot going on right now, and it, you know, really affected my mood, and I just need to work on, I think, you know, healing from that and getting to a good point, you know, in my life where there's not quite so much anxiety in my midst, and before I take on more responsibility. And like, I mean, ideally I would be working all the time anyway, so I wouldn't have time to dedicate the proper time to a pup. I have thought about, I've wanted to adopt, but my dad is really skeptical about that because our dogs, we got unlucky and they got sick and they were unhealthy. So his new mantra is, you know, he's been doing a lot of research and making sure like his next thing is like he wants like the healthiest dog that you can possibly get. And I hope it all works out for him, because I would be so incredibly sad because he's doing all this research work, and then for him to, after all that, his dog gets sick or like something happens, because it does happen. I would just feel really bad, because I reminded him, I said, remember, you know, we got Phoebe from a trailer park. Not that she didn't have like her papers or anything, but she was like, wasn't like a pedigree, you know what I mean? And we got lucky with her is what he said, but he's just saying we've had a lot of bad luck with our dogs and their health for the past couple of years actually. So I agree with him. But on one hand, I would really like to adopt and maybe, you know, save somebody's life. And I think that would be a good thing to do, but he worries that about the health of the dog and like getting attached and not knowing their history. But I don't know, we'll see. I know plenty of people who adopt and their pets are just fine, and you form an even better bond knowing, you know, what you've done, and you gave somebody a second chance and a life and a home. And I don't know what I'll do, because I'm not there yet. But anyways, I hope this was, you know, a good experience, and I didn't like, you know, ruin anybody's mood. I wanted to figure out a way to tell you guys in the most positive way possible, and do something special for Phoebe, my love. You guys have been so wonderful in sending me notes and gratitude, and just I've been really appreciative of it. And you know, I appreciate all that you guys do for me and all of your love and support that you pass along. And just remember to always love those around you, because you never know what's going to happen, and life is so uncertain. So just enjoy your time, and that's all you can do, and let someone know that you love them, and don't ever leave anything unsaid or undone, because you never know what's going to happen. But I hope you guys enjoyed the sketch chat. Please let me know if you have any ideas for other videos that you would like to see from me. I do take them all down in a notepad for ideas, and I will go through them when the time is right. I keep going back in here to fix stuff. But and I will get to them, and I read all my comments as much as I can, unless they get lost on YouTube somehow. YouTube's been really weird lately. But anyways, I hope you guys have an amazing week. Thank you so much. If you don't know, I'm now on Patreon, so if you'd like to support me on Patreon, I would really appreciate it. You guys have a wonderful day, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.